Thank you so much. So I'm April Schwanz. I work for Strongest Families. I'm the first one going, so I tried to make this short. So one of the main things we wanted to focus on in our project was timely access to mental health care for children. As you guys know, it's a national and international crisis. So this is definitely one thing we wanted to address. Strongest Families Institute was designed to remove the barriers to care and to provide a proven distance education program to children with really strong impacts in a really short duration of time, and not only with impacts on their behavior, but also impacts building relationships, and even we're seeing effects on parental mood and parental depression as well. So our interventions are currently approximately 5 months long. We target mild to moderate behaviors and also behaviors with diagnoses like oppositional defiant disorder, attention deficit disorder, etc., and very significant behavior issues. But the problem we have is that we're not catching these issues early. So we really wanted to promote the prevention piece before they get to that significant phase. So we are aligning with the Newfoundland government and their stepped care model and modifying our current program to address a population health promotion approach. So we're offering the program to all 3 to 6-year-old children in Newfoundland at their preschool checkup. They'll receive a pamphlet and the option to sign up online. And depending on the severity of the possible behavior, and would depend on how intense of the parenting program they would receive. So if they didn't have any behavior problems, they would still have access to some of those tips and skills that all parents need, because none of these kids come with the parenting manual when they're born. So, and if they have some impairment, then they would go on to another phase of intensity, and it will continue until they reach the full program. So we're modifying our current program to help with that and to help with the promotion piece and giving access to all. So that's basically it. I was trying to keep it short because I knew 3 minutes was going to fly by.
That's great. So I guess we can just give anybody a couple seconds chance to add in any of what they would like to learn about from this project into the chat, or make note of it before moving on to the next project. Okay, so that's great. Thank you.
Hi. So
Yep.
Is it impact? Is it my turn now? I'm sorry, I'm not on a screen to see, so I'm on a phone.
Yeah, so we're moving on to the Matsky Abbotsford. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, we are a youth-run program. We're a small team, but it's predominantly run by youth. We are dialogical. And youth respond to feedback once we go into space with the programs we're running. We're right now partnering with the school board, and in fact, one of the meetings we're going to after this call, or before the call ends, is to deal with the vaping, the vaping sort of stuff that's going on right now in all communities and in the schools. So our youth have been leading. Approached us to have dialogical and communicating and trying to figure out the vaping process and the difficulties that the schools are having with youth and vaping. So our youth are leading these conversations, these dialogues. They've created a survey. We're going to do a follow-up today with that. All of our work that has been done is been done by youth who have passion for certain things and things that are meaningful to them, and bringing them into space. We are also partnered up with an Indigenous group in Seabird, and we're come alongside their youth to support them and help them establish a youth council and to sort of organize themselves in what they want to see and do in their own communities. coming from again, run by youth and led by youth, with their voices to be heard in those spaces. We also have a group that is a youth user group that has been started in 2 communities, one in Mission and one in Abbotsford, run by youth as well. So the youth have the support of adults in space, but they're the ones who are taking the lead in these projects and coming up with what the desires are and the outcomes in these projects that will be meaningful to them and that will give them purpose. So that's what's going on right now. It's in the very beginning stages of developing all of this. We meet once a week for the Now project. So that's where a lot of the ideas, the surveys, the questions that come out for us to proceed into the other projects that we're doing in communities.
Okay, great. Thank you. I will leave another couple of seconds just in case anybody has anything they'd like to take note of. Otherwise, we will move on to number 14, which is the Hospital for Sick Kids.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Chaya Kulkarni, and I'm the Director of Infant Mental Health Promotion, where we're evaluating a project that we call Nurturing the Seed. And 3 of the things that are important pillars of this work include the fact that the project is actually using a strength-based approach that is really leveraging the child's primary care relationship. We are working with several Indigenous communities across the country, focusing on children from birth to the age of 6. And in terms of the evaluation, the communities have really designed the evaluations. So the project looks a little bit different in each community. There are some parts of it that are consistently the same. So we're training staff to be able to look more closely at a child's development, including their mental health, right from birth. And if there is any concern at all, to be able to provide the family with an immediate response to that concern, because so often we understand that families are left on waiting lists that can go on for quite some time. Often children reach school before they reach the top of a waiting list. And really trying to understand whether this work and working with families and staff at the same time is going to lead to better outcomes developmentally for children with a real focus on their mental health and well-being. So.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm impressed so far. We've had extra time in each one, which is great. Again, I'll just leave a couple of seconds in case anyone has anything to enter. And our next project to speak will be Réseau Santé Colombie-Britannique.
Hi, very nice to meet you. Thank you for having us. So we're going to do it in English if that's okay for you. I think it's easier for everyone to understand. But we are actually very happy to be one of the projects selected to actually work in French and develop something for Francophone people. So it's our focus is and project aims to equip young immigrants, so it's focusing on 13 to 22 years old. And we are actually developing an app which is going to be, which people will be able to use to actually monitor their mental health. And the goal is for them to be actually able to use it by themselves on a daily basis. So the app has already been developed a little bit. It's going to come on shortly. We are focusing on adapting it specifically to youth and especially to Francophone immigrants because they do face some very specific challenges in BC and Alberta. So the particularity is we are actually over 2 provinces. We're working over BC and Alberta. We will be working with Francophone School Board districts in both provinces, with also our counterpart in Alberta, to help spread the idea. So we are focusing on the first 5 months in BC to actually just test the app with young people, with their families, with also the school workers that are actually in contact with the kids and can also give us their feedback on what should be implemented in the app, how to use it. The app focuses on evidence-based resources. So everything to like that will lead is evidence-based and it's safe for the kids. We are testing it in BC, and during the summer we will actually adapt it to young immigrants, take all the feedback from the people and the first families that tried it, and then improve it and send it to BC and Alberta for the first real pilot phase starting in September. Because we are working mainly with schools, we do have to remain and stuck to their calendars, which is September for the next phase, September through March. So our main point is the development of this app for young immigrants. The second point is we are over 2 provinces for now. We are for all francophones, so it's every French-speaking person in BC and Alberta, coming from Africa, Europe, Haiti, or every province is even, of course, Quebec. And we are gathering data on mental health because, especially on young immigrants, that's going to be the main part of our evaluation, to actually gather data on how they are now and how the app actually has an impact on their mental health, how it's used, is it helpful, how we can spread it. And the main goal is, like, everything we actually design is keeping in mind that we can actually expand it and scale it up to actually do more schools or more provinces. It will be adaptable through the whole country if necessary. So I think that's it for us.
Wonderful. Merci à vous.
Merci.
Merci.
Next up, we have number 8, which is the Community Food Centres Canada.
Hi, this is Megan from Community Food Centres Canada. I'm the project manager for our project called Mind Your Food. And in year 1 of the project, we've been working with our partners to develop a food-focused program for youth who are 13 to 19 years old. And that program will ideally explore and emphasize protective mental health factors such as nutrition, cultural identity, and community connection. And then it'll be in year 2 of the grant that our partners deliver the program and we evaluate the success. So the program will be offered by our partner community food centers in Winnipeg, Manitoba, here in Toronto, Ontario, where we are also located, and then finally in Eel Ground First Nation, which is located in New Brunswick. And it's really important to us as we develop this curriculum and the program as a whole that we do it collaboratively. And of course, we're wanting to make a program that youth actually want to attend. So to date, we've met with 42 youth as well as community stakeholders to chat about what is wanted and needed in the different communities where the programs will be delivered. Food, of course, is a pretty broad topic. So it's been really interesting to chat with the youth about what they're most interested in exploring. And it's looking like, based on the feedback we have so far, that our 10-week program will be very experiential. That's not too much of a surprise, but we'll be combining land-based learning and activities like fishing, fire making, and wild food walks with more conventional kitchen activities such as baking and the exploration of food traditions through recipes. And the last point I guess I'll make is that despite seeing a lot of similarity in what the youth are most interested in learning, adaptability is remaining important to us, particularly given the very different contexts in which the program will ultimately be delivered. So as we develop the curriculum, we are really prioritizing choice. And this means that we're working to identify different pathways by which each of the shared learning objectives can be met. So I think an important takeaway from this is that the actual activities that the youth will be engaging in aren't so much the priority of the project. We're not looking to have youth develop proficiency in any of the land-based or kitchen skills, but rather we're hoping the youth will leave the program feeling more comfortable and confident in who they are, hopefully feeling a bit more excited about food in general and feeling more connected to and supported by their communities.
That's great. Thank you again. All right, next up we have project number 9, the Hauygartit Health Research Center. Research Center.
Yes, hi, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Bella.
I'm filling in for our main project lead, Gwen Hili-Akiarok, on this call. To speak to this project, our project is called MHP-IF Community Wellness Hub, and our organization is called Yugartit Health Research Center. MHP-IF means in English, a place for living a good life. Our intervention is a coordinated, community-led, evidence-based program and service delivery model for Inuit children, youth, and families. Our approach is to partner with a collective of Nunavut Mute, with people who live in Nunavut, who work for and lead long-term community-led health and wellness agencies in Nunavut. We are developing an innovative, self-sustaining, holistic, community-driven model for programs and services with the intent that it can be replicated in other northern communities and across the Arctic. This is a need identified by all our communities in Nunavut and by other communities across the north. Kayugartit is leading this initiative. The MHP-IF Community Wellness Hub will be a place where community programs and services can be housed. Community wellness hubs are not eye-catching and new like digital technologies, apps, or media projects, but they are tried and true pathway to improve wellness in rural and remote communities which need gathering spaces. There's currently no existing community wellness hub in Nunavut operating with this model, and we are planning to test this new model and evaluate it with programming available to the whole community, delivered within a holistic model based on Inuit pathways to well-being. The justification behind this project stems from a strong community need. It's an innovative demonstration project when self-sustaining for supporting long-term community wellness and Inuit self-determination. Our hope is that the model will be replicated in many communities across the Arctic. So to conclude, our anticipated outcomes are access to early childhood programming, access to Inuit counseling services, improved access to child rearing and parenting support programs, youth literacy, empowerment, and land-based camp programs, a stronger community-based professional training and evaluation center, and an increased availability of a diversity of holistic community-led maternal, child, and wellness services for the community. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. Next up, we have the University of Toronto, number 10.
Hi, everyone. My name is Connie Chung, and I'm from the Laboratory for Social Emotional Development and Intervention. We're also known as the Study Lab for short, and we're part of the University of Toronto, Mississauga. In our particular project, what we're aiming to do is support healthy child development through a developmentally sensitive way to promote mental health services for refugee children and families, especially those who are Syrian and Yazidi newcomer families who are new to Ontario. So the main goal is to leverage strength in newcomer children and caregivers by implementing a suite of child, family, school, and community-based intervention strategies to promote the capacity of different stakeholders in their ability to support social emotional development in the home, classroom, and community. So the interventions themselves are informed by our theory of social emotional development that has been developed based on over 10 years of developmental and clinical research conducted at the Study Lab. And through a strengths-based approach, what we aim to do is build a mental health promotion framework that really tailors intervention approaches that are sensitive to the developmental needs of children. And this tailoring approach is informed by the common needs that all children require in order to nurture mental health well-being, as well as the specific mental health needs of different communities who have experienced different levels of trauma. So with this particular project, what we're hoping to do is really to take our learnings from working with the Syrian and Yazidi communities to help inform the development of a more general trauma-informed mental health promotion framework. And lastly, through this project, what we aim to do is to build a community-level framework that can help leverage strengths across different social service providers to meet the specific mental health needs of the Syrian and Yazidi newcomer communities We're hoping to provide the necessary infrastructure and coordination that can help streamline and implement effective mental health support to diverse groups and communities. And through this network of policy and practice leaders, we're hoping to create capacity within communities and develop mechanisms of which we can integrate some of our work into policy and social service delivery. And that's it.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, number 11, University of Western Ontario.
Hi everyone, my name is Gina, project coordinator for Strong here at the Center for School Mental Health at Western University. And I have also Dr. Claire Crooks with me as well. So just a little bit of background on our project. So STRONG stands for Supporting Transition Resilience for newcomer groups. And our project really focuses, it's a resilience intervention for newcomers, students that are essentially seeking support in their transition and adjustment in schools. So this is an intervention that is run by clinicians. It's 10 weeks, both in elementary and secondary levels, available to support newcomer students. And it really focuses on building their coping skills, building their resiliency, and a really a special component of the project is that there's a specific session that they sit with the clinician and process their journey narrative and allow them to frame it. So it's a very strength-based program, and that's run in partnership with School Mental Health Ontario. Specific to the 3 learnings that are really important for us to share with you all is obviously right now we all know that in Ontario we're really being impacted by the job action, but what we've been really happy to see is that specific to our project, there's been a lot of support from teachers and clinicians to still roll out the project for newcomer students and really support. So that's been something that's been really wonderful to see. And I'll let Claire touch on the other 2 learnings as well.
Yeah, so the commitment of clinicians and educators, I think, speaks to the need for this intervention and them wanting something useful. Our other 2 things we're going to tell you, one, the complexity of school-based research just seems to get harder and harder. So we had to apply to 8 different boards, and it's partly there's an impact of job action. So in some boards, clinicians are part of one of the affected unions. In some parts, it's who's on the research review committee. And so even though the program's moving forward, it looks like we'll have research approval. Right now we have it from 2 for sure. We might get another 2. But beyond the job action, there's some funny things happening where boards are letting youth consent to their own involvement programs, which is a really important autonomy-driven move, but then that causes a wrinkle when they are also allowed to consent to their own research. And so we're having to navigate and help non-researchers navigate. If a youth has consented to be part of a program, but their parents don't know, or they don't want their parents to know, then you don't want to send home a parental consent form for research. So just having to build that capacity. And the 3rd thing we're going to tell you is, even though I'm a clinical psychologist and a lot of this comes from kind of a mental health approach, we're just seeing such a hunger among our partners and educators for bringing together equity and mental health considerations and having some really good conversations that I feel like they just weren't happening 5 years ago about how do we incorporate anti-oppressive practices into mental health interventions? How do we kind of bridge these 2 historically siloed areas? And I think that's a really exciting part that we're exploring. We had a 30-second thing. I don't want to. Actually, can I ask one question just while we're not muted? I noticed there's a mistake, which we probably did, in our little summary. Is this a public health summary or a KD or a secretariat summary, or both? Who should we follow up with to fix this?
It originally came from the Public Health Agency. Christine, I don't know if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, so please, Claire, thank you. Please do send us that correction. We'll make it immediately. Okay. And apologies for that. Thank you.
No, I think it looks like it's ours.
Okay.
It says like Southern Ontario, but now we've like there's a few things like that probably changed since we did it.
Great. So please do. And for anyone else, if you see changes in the summary that need to be made to your description, please send to me, and we'll get that fixed. So thank you.
Yeah, just to build on that ever so briefly, I think that's an important point. I mean, one of the things that we've been thinking through when doing this soft launch of the Hub's website within our Mental Health Promotion Innovation Fund community is that basically these summaries are the most up-to-date from each of the projects, and for us not to, you know, put our slant on those, but more so, you know, work with you to figure out, as many of you have heard in the orientation calls, about how to update those and how those will be represented on the website. So what those currently are, you're right, Claire, those are from you, but again, things are always in motion, and those updates will be helpful, but we chose not to take that extra step of trying to update moment in time for this call.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, next up is number 12, Mount St. Vincent University.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Marla. I'm the research coordinator here at the Early Childhood Collaborative Research Center at Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax. So my role is to help with the research/evaluation portion of our Positive Solutions for Families project here in Nova Scotia. So I'm accompanied by Jade Harley here, who also works with us at ECCRC, and she is our evaluation manager here. So she will also be supporting the evaluation of our project. So our project is being co-led by Dr. Jessie McIsaac, who works here at Mount St. Vincent University as Canada Chair, Tier 2 Canada Research Chair, and is also Associate Professor. And then we are also collaborating with Patty Monahan from Nova Scotia Early Childhood Developmental Intervention Services, so NSECDIS, here in Nova Scotia. Unfortunately, they're both in a meeting actually just beside us, so they were not able to make it, but Jay and I are here to represent our project. So just a mini intro about our project. Positive Solutions for Families is basically a user-friendly training series for parents and caregivers aimed to promote positive and effective parenting behaviors, so really promoting children's social and emotional development. So the training series consists of 7 sessions, and these will be implemented first in 3 regulated childcare centers here in Nova Scotia, and then once those are implemented and evaluated by us, we'll further implement and evaluate 8 additional regulated childcare centers. So these sessions will be facilitated by developmental interventionists, so the DIs from NSECDIS, and the sessions will be provided at the childcare centers themselves. So our project is in collaboration with Patty and her team, and they will be leading that implementation piece, whereas we are really completing the evaluation of the project. So number 1, we really chose this project based on the gap that we were seeing between childcare providers' knowledge and understanding of social emotional development and what was being carried over into the children's home lives, so with their parents and caregivers. So we're really excited to be able to offer this program to parents because we really believe in that importance of continuous support across environments, and also children getting the same consistent messaging between their childcare center and their home. Leading from that first point, Positive Solutions for Families is an extension of an evidence-based initiative called the Pyramid Model, which is a 3-tiered framework to help early child educators, so ECEs, support the social emotional learning of children in regulated childcare. So the pyramid model is being implemented currently here in Nova Scotia, so that it's a great opportunity to really extend that practice of supporting children's social emotional development. So the pyramid model supports ECEs in childcare, but the Positive Solutions for Families sessions works to support parents and families to support children in social emotional learning. So really about that wraparound support for children in both childcare and home settings, so consistency of information. Lastly, the Positive Solutions for Families really meets families where they are. So we are offering the training sessions in regulated childcare centers, and the hope is that families can easily access these supports. And we're also evaluating this project, so we will be asking families to fill out surveys and also participate in some group discussions and focus groups to give feedback on how the Positive Solution sessions were, how they can improve, so we can better implement them for additional centers as time goes on. So we're first evaluating the experiences of the parents for those initial 3 centers and then further adapting the sessions for additional 8. So this project is also providing contact with families in between the sessions to check in to encourage and support problem solving. Facilitators will also be assigning kind of homework for families to carry out at home. which has been shown to provide some better parent outcomes within parenting programs. So between meeting families where they are, as well as collecting informative feedback, we really hope to support families and children in relation to their social and emotional development and further their mental health.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, next up is number 13, the PA Family Resource Center.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, I have to, okay.
Yep, you can.
You can hear me fine. I thought I was still on mute. This is Lisa. I'm from the PA Family Resource Center, and our project is called the Cedar Path. And we chose the Cedar Path as the title and like the outline for the program through the work that we do with the youth in the community. Because Cedar is medicine for clarity, to take negative energy to make way for positive energy. Our youth are instrumental in any type of programming that we do in any of our program offerings in the community, and we had an opportunity to do preliminary focus groups with our youth, and they have identified to us that they are in need of land-based teachings, and I'm sure many of you understand that you heard that also all over Canada. They identified the following as essential to them: medicine teachings, the use of animals and showing respect to animals, and how to use all parts of animals, and preparing them, and doing the TP teachings and things that go with survival. And also the importance of community and family in traditional life and how it can be done today. So working together, recognizing strengths to share and weaknesses they can strengthen with the help of others, and building their family and building their community. And for land use, more land use is gardening and preparing, planting, harvesting, things like that. And also probably one of the main things they want to know and understand, to be able to understand themselves, is the history of Indigenous people in Canada. And we're going to be having them engage with elders in the community who have been to residential school, and so that they can understand that it's important to know where you come from and what your history is in order to be able to celebrate it. So that's the primary of what we're doing for our Cedar Path project.
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Moving on to project number 15 in the list, and that is the Multicultural Health Brokers Cooperative.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, awesome. So my name is Joamar Jalal. I'm with the Multicultural Health Brokers Cooperative, and our project is called Celebrating Culture, Celebrating Life, an empowerment approach to building resilience amongst immigrant and refugee youth in Edmonton, Alberta. The summary that you guys have is so well done that I figured I would actually provide our 3 facts as illuminating sort of to our organization and our philosophies. And then the last 2 are a little bit more project specific, but I think it's important to give some background on MCHB, so Multicultural Health Brokers Cooperative. It's the core philosophies of the cooperative guide so much of what we do. So the MCHB was actually created by the community many years ago. In 1991, a 3-year project conducted by a radical team of staff working at a health promotion division on the Edmonton Board of Health were tasked to identify those that aren't well served by the health systems here in Edmonton. So they gathered together community leaders to discuss this. Long story, extremely short, those community leaders came together, and over time this cooperative was created. Our roots are from the community, and therefore we're guided by the principle, nothing about us without us. As we have grown as an organization, we have worked to continue to represent the community from the communities from which we work in every aspect of our service, research, or programming, to ensure that they continue to feel their voices are heard and truly acknowledged. We do that sort of by relying on the practice of cultural brokering. While cultural brokering isn't the only type of work that we engage in here at MCHP, it is the driving force behind a lot of our endeavors for the past 20 years. Internally at MCHP, we define cultural brokering as an act of bridging, linking, or mediating between groups or persons of different cultural backgrounds for the purpose of reducing conflict or producing change. Cultural brokers have an understanding of not only their own culture, but also the dominant culture, and have a deep, connected, shared lived experience with those that they serve. And we think that's essential to being able to ensure that those they serve are giving the agency of their own voice in the actions of the broker or those serving the families in the communities. So we think brokering involves that being a cultural guide for families and systems, liaisoning as a link between both the families and the systems, being a mediator to ease any historical or inherent distrust and sort of balance the power between families and communities and systems, and then also being catalysts for change. So a lot of what we're doing in our programming is creating youth-oriented brokering intervention. So this is the first time in that we've sort of expanded the cultural brokering intervention into another form of intervention. So we've had for actually 13 years at MCHP been providing youth programming in about 16 different ethno-cultural communities. During that decade plus, we became painfully aware that Canada's first generation immigrant youth and those born to parents of second generation are called to interact and adapt in different ways than their parents and other Canadian youth and children. And those unique ways therefore require a unique and tailored support system to achieve that well-being. So our intervention is fundamentally about breaking down any barriers, reducing any discrimination faced, and enhancing social supports so the youth experience improved mental health. And as a summary that you guys have posted so well sort of summarizes, is we do that through that cultural brokering approach. And we're hoping to gain some new knowledge and understand brokering even more as it relates to youth as we go forward in the project, and hopefully be able to share that with you all. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, just a couple seconds in case anyone's entering in the chat. Otherwise, we will move on to number 16, Needs Inc.
Hi, good afternoon from Winnipeg. My name is Janelle, and I'm joined by my colleague Mahmoud, who is a member of my team on this project. So the overall goal of our project is to increase the mental health of refugee children, youth, and families. The secondary goal is to create evidence-based intervention strategies that can be shared with stakeholders across the country. And by partnering with various local organizations and school divisions, we are hoping to achieve these top 3 objectives that we're excited to share with you today. So the first is the development of a trauma-informed curriculum delivered to children and youth through psychosocial groups that focus on increasing protective factors and developing pro-social behaviors. These enhanced support sessions allow for participants who experience challenging situations related to settlement and adverse childhood experiences, an opportunity to ultimately increase their integration, coping, and regulation strategies, and overall wellness. Secondly, our project will deliver Circle of Security parenting groups for the parents and guardians of these children and youth. Parents and guardians may lack the understanding to be a resource to their children due to their own experiences of trauma, belonging, education, and employment. So our aim is to provide opportunities for parents to increase their support and nurturing by increasing their own capacity through an evidence-based parenting program model. And additionally, our agency will hold parenting groups so that parents can remain connected to our agency. And finally, at the community level, our project will facilitate professional development opportunities in the areas of supporting refugee children and youth, working from a trauma-informed perspective. So in partnership with a local organization, we will deliver the Making Sense of Trauma training workshop to service providers and education professionals in order to help participants develop an understanding of the impact of trauma on children and youth and learn the principles of trauma-informed care. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to number 18, the Students' Commission of Canada.
Awesome, thanks. So my name is Krista, and I am the Associate Director at the Students' Commission of Canada. We support young people to put their ideas for change into action and to have their voices heard in spaces where they're often not heard or welcomed. We are a national organization. Our programming is national in scope, but we're also relatively small. So we work in partnerships with organizations across the country to deliver our programming at a national level. So what we're doing with our work here is we're running a project called Authentic Social Identity Formation and Mental Health. And this is sort of an evolution of a project that we initially started with the RCMP to explore online social identity formation. And of course, we noted that the online and the offline were so deeply connected that we couldn't just focus on one. And that social identity formation and mental health are very much linked. And so we wanted to sort of build on that learning and utilize a program model that we have used in the past and are currently using now in other projects that we call influence in action. So it's a peer-driven and designed intervention through which we train young people to be peer influencers. So, you know, it's not about them being counselors or that sort of thing, but it's about them supporting their peers and their friends to challenge norms and expectations, think critically about decisions, and ultimately to empower them to actually create the resources and supports that they need or seek them out with the support of adult allies. We're delivering this across the country, so with 6 partner sites in BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, 2 in Ontario, in fact, and 1 in New Brunswick. Those are where some of our interested partners are located, but we're also hoping to explore further and develop more partnerships in different spaces. And we're also actually looking to explore what social identity formation and mental health looks like in like sports teams and athletic spaces. And we've partnered with an organization called New Path, which has a curriculum to do so. And then I guess lastly, we are utilizing our Sharing the Stories program evaluation and research platform to gather our data and are hoping to align it in order to compare it with the processes and outcomes of other projects where we're using the influence and action model. So that's it.
Wonderful, thank you. Next, we have number 19, the Community-Based Research Center Society.
Great. Hi, my name is Jason Garcia. I work for the Community-Based Research Center. We're based out of Vancouver, but operate nationally. I myself work in Treaty 6 in Edmonton, Alberta. And essentially what our project is working on is revamping one of our already existing LGBTQ2S+ community-based programming called Totally Outright, which had kind of a sexual health destigmatization emphasis and community building emphasis on it, but to restructure it with a mental health lens. So really putting forth the priority, protective factors such as social inclusion, cultural identity, social and emotional coping skills, and really reinforcing kind of that, in this kind of however our partner organizations decide to implement this project, from between 4 to 8 months is really up to them. One of the unique things about this project is that while we're kind of revamping and developing content for everyone, we're working quite collaboratively with different partner organizations, each based out of Vancouver with an organization called YouthCo, in Edmonton with the Edmonton Men's Health Collective, and in Halifax with the Youth Project, each different organizations that are tasked with putting on this programming, who are helping shape the curriculum with us right now. And we're all collaboratively coming together and focused on, of course, each group will have their own local context of how they want to use and incorporate different social networks locally to them that would be most effective for youth in their areas, but really coming from a base understanding of what approaches we want to do this, informed by research. So considering a strengths-based approach, understanding, health literacy components from a queer perspective, and understanding, who we are and how we're impacted, not as focused on, risk or deficit language, but really turning it into kind of a resilience building and health promotion piece. So each of these individuals who partake in the program will be able to engage in kind of a community health promotion / health empowerment project. So whether it's different campaigns or different kind of events that the participants themselves, after kind of going through the health literacy component, they themselves, after getting to be better acquainted with one another and understanding competencies together, they're able to really empower themselves to develop their projects in whatever way that they want, and emphasizing that their voices matter, and that as much as experts with credentials have the tools and understandings of our health, no one understands our health better than ourselves, especially through our lived experiences. So to really prop up the voices of queer identified youth and to share that, and for them to take ownership of it, I hope will really make a difference in our population, but also, of course, empower other folks who work with vulnerable populations to share from their perspective how their health should matter as per their lens, not those who study it. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. Okay, and back to the top of the list for number 1, University of British Columbia School of Nursing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa McGuinness. I'm the project coordinator for our Promoting Adolescent Mental Health Through Policy project. Apologies, Emily Jenkins, who is our project lead, is actually at a PHAC event in Toronto right now and couldn't be with us today. So I'll just start by saying that the work that we're doing now grew out of previous work that engaged children and youth to build experiential and really context-rich knowledge to try to inform healthy public policy that could promote children's mental health. And in that process, policy really emerged as kind of a key lever that needed to be addressed. And so as part of the work we did in Foundation for this was to do an environmental scan to understand what kinds of policy training programs there were out there for youth. That scan kind of confirmed what we had suspected, and that was there really wasn't a testable framework for youth engagement in policy that had been developed. So that's what we set out to do in our previous work. So we have developed a prototype curriculum for testing in collaboration with a group of youth that we've been working with that range in age from about 17 to 28, and have developed this prototype that we hope to test now in 3 different sites with community partners representing different organizations like community centers and school boards and that sort of thing. 2 of those sites are in BC. One is in Alberta. And the intention of this curriculum is to really equip them with mental health promotion knowledge, but also really hands-on skills for identifying the kinds of things that they think are important in their community to promote the mental health of all youth, not just their own, and then to engage in that policy kind of influencing or change behavior. And the curriculum is going to be delivered by both a youth and adult facilitator in each site that will train up through a train-the-trainer model that will really emphasize relationship building, community connectedness, identifying partners doing similar work, social and emotional learning aspects that build out different topics in the curriculum. And we hope to evaluate all of that by assessing knowledge gains through this process, increases in resilience and connectedness, as well as policy impacts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, number 2. Ensuite, on a le projet de l'Association francophone à l'éducation des services à l'enfance de l'Ontario.
Bonjour, mon nom est Martine Saint-Onge. Je vais prendre l'opportunité de présenter notre projet en français. Donc, nous souhaitons donner les outils aux professionnels en petite enfance pour jouer leur rôle de promoteur en santé mentale auprès des enfants et des familles qu'ils accompagnent, mais également dans leur communauté. Donc, nous allons offrir dans 3 sites pilotes, un dans le nord à Kapuskasing, un dans l'est à Hawkesbury et un à Milton, dans le centre de la province, en Ontario. De la formation aux éducateurs et éducatrices pour offrir, en fait, en venir à faire de meilleures interventions en lien avec la santé mentale auprès des enfants, mais également aux parents d'offrir des activités ludiques parce qu'on sait que l'apprentissage se passe beaucoup par le jeu, donc pour les parents et les enfants, et de créer aussi un espace de réflexion et de discussion dans la communauté avec nos partenaires en santé mentale. Donc, nous allons travailler au niveau de la province avec le centre psychosocial et avec la Société de recherche appliquée en ressources humaines pour évaluer ces activités-là auprès des professionnels en petite enfance et leurs familles. Merci.
Merci. Et je vais répéter en anglais. I will do a brief, my understanding anyway, of your presentation. So this project will be taking place in 3 sites in Ontario, in Kapuskasing, Hawkesbury, and Milton. And the 3 important things that this project would like everyone to know is that they hope to build the capacity of early childhood professionals working in French in a minority environment, particularly in mental health in French. They also hope, in a second point, to offer to parents and children who frequent early childhood services in French and use those services in French to develop healthy living habits, including pride and confidence in transmitting Francophone language and culture to their children in a minority context. And lastly, they hope to create regional Francophone spaces for discussion and reflection that focus on early childhood mental health promotion. So thank you for sharing. Merci. Next up, we have number 3, Simon Fraser University.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So my name is Emily Thornton, and I'm one of the coordinators on the Supporting Kinship and Foster Parents project. And one big motivator behind this project is the fact that adolescent mental health has been largely overlooked, despite the fact that a lot of the adult psychiatric disorders actually present before age 25. And foster children, the population that we are interested in, experience especially high levels of adversity and are even more susceptible to such mental health issues. For many, the exposure to trauma begins pretty early and continues as children move back and forth between foster placements. So basically, it can be really quite difficult for these families. And despite all these difficulties and their obvious need for support, a lot of youth and their families experience a lot of barriers to accessing age-relevant services And for foster parents and children, there's even less support. So we're trying to kind of improve the situation by offering a trauma-informed, attachment-based intervention called Connect for Kinship and Foster Parents. And among other things, this is because research has found that the quality of the relationship between foster parents and the children can predict improved mental health, academic performance, and just general health in adulthood. And so, like I mentioned, the parent-child relationship is kind of the target of Connect for Kinship and Foster Parents, which is the program that we're evaluating. More specifically, our project supports the implementation and evaluation of an evidence-based program, Connect for Kinship and Foster Parents, that works with caregivers to support their recognition and understanding of the impact of trauma on the parent-child relationship and on adolescent development. And this program is actually an adaptation of Connect, and based on 2 decades of research on the original program, we found strong evidence that adolescents and caregivers derive significant and lasting benefits from this program. And so we anticipate and we're hoping that the adapted program that we're going to be using here will provide similar benefits for adolescents in care and their kinship and foster parents. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks to you. All right. Next up is number 4, Foxy. Do we have Foxy on the call? I suppose perhaps not.
I don't think so. It doesn't seem like it, Eric. Then.
Okay, perfect. Then we will move on to number 5, the Central Toronto Youth Services.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So my name is Leandra Miller, and I'm from Central Toronto Youth Services. I work in a program called Pride and Prejudice, which is our LGBTQ+ program, and been around since the 80s, actually. And it's a mental health program that's been providing individual, group, and family counseling for LGBT youth and their parents. And I would say traditionally, most of the programs that are out there from a more of a grassroots community-based place have to do with serving the youth as opposed to the parents. But as research keeps kind of evolving and showing us more and more that that's actually one of the strongest protective factors, is for the parents to be on board, affirmative, and supportive to their youth, that we've been over the last decade designing more and more programs for the parents so that they could in turn support their youth in terms of their own gender identity or sexuality. This particular program is based on our Families in Transition project, which is a 10-week group that's psychoeducational for trans youth, gender variant youth, non-binary youth, and their parents. And they come together for a 10-week group to be able to, learn from one another, learn more about the trans community and the language therein, how to support their youth through various processes, how to unpack kind of their own kind of transphobia or transmisogyny that they might be experiencing, and ultimately kind of create a stronger relationship with their trans youth. And we know that that actually suicide rates drop by 93% with parents that are perceived by their youth to be supportive. So what we're doing is we're writing the facilitation manual for that FIT group, plus an additional youth group that goes alongside of that for the youth of the parents involved. And we're working on some workbooks as well that can be more standalone, because we're hoping that this will be able to get scaled up in lots of different communities, some of which may not have enough people to run a full group. So those workbooks will serve as a bit of support for those families that actually aren't able to engage in larger communities. So we're very excited to be a part of this project. Based on all of that, one of the key things that we're finding as we move forward with it is that we're trying a participatory research model because unfortunately, you know, trans communities have been studied by cis folks for lots of years to some sort of damaging outcomes. And so we're really working hard to make sure that that it is trans people themselves that are researching this piece. But it's a learning curve for us and for myself in particular, and we're excited to move forward with that as we go along. And I just want to say that I think I'm the last one presenting, and it's just been such a total joy to hear about all these other projects, and I saw all kinds of commonalities as we were moving forward. So I look forward to working with all of you in some capacity. Thank you.
Great, thank you for sharing that as well, that bit at the end too, Leandra. I agree that it's been great to hear from everyone and a little bit more about your projects. Just a quick reminder at the end here that at the end of this session anyways, that if you have any questions that you would like to learn, that you'd like to add, or anything you'd like to learn more about certain projects, feel free to email those. You can add them to the chat now or email them to the Hub Secretariat. Et merci à tout le monde. Juste un rappel, s'il vous plaît, si vous avez des questions que vous aimeriez ajouter, vous pouvez envoyer ça par courriel à quelqu'un du secrétariat du Carrefour. Merci. And I'll pass it along to Barb, I think.
Okay, oh, thanks so much. And for that, I mean, Leandra, that wonderful segue to bringing this call to a gentle close, and Eric for that invitation as well. I think that's terrific. I mean, this clearly is a first chance to hear a little bit from each other, and oh my gosh, how impressive. I mean, thanks to each of you for clearly what was some thoughtful preparation in sharing some things about your projects. And as I say, those sharings and nuggets are only going to continue, hopefully in a feasible way. And you're probably all going to start to, you know, sort of both listen for and hear some of the commonalities and also some of the uniqueness across projects. This isn't about painting, you know, mental health promotion with the same brush. And, you know, one of the things that really struck me, I mean, those of you who were following the chat discussion at all, I clearly couldn't just help myself. I mean, the lens that I'm trying to bring to this, and each of us will bring a unique and different lens. My lens is really about that new knowledge. And I have to say, I think all of you on this call, all of the projects are the real pioneers in the field. And I think there's just a huge opportunity to learn about, you know, as basic as it might sound, I think we all appreciate how complex it really is about how to do mental health promotion on the ground and how to learn from it. There's no single way of knowing. We heard some comments around participatory research models. Yeah, those have been around for a long time, and yet how they get applied in different settings with different populations, there's a lot to learn about that. And again, not this sort of painting, not talking about participatory approaches as one entity. I think we really need to understand some of the nuances that will come from working with very diverse and very unique populations that each of you have spoken to. I also think, I mean, those of you who have participated in the orientation calls, that part of our job, I mean, collectively, I think, and one that the Hub definitely has embraced is, you know, there's an educational element for others who may be interested in mental health promotion about what is most important to learn about. And that's why you saw in my comments, it's more, wow, neat opportunities to learn about some of these very complex things like, oh my goodness, you know, how do we even measure and understand connectedness, ownership? I mean, there's more work done on the concept of resilience, but these are the kinds of sort of outcomes that we need to focus on, and really focusing on aspects of implementation, the how to do it. So anyway, that was sort of the spirit of a lot of the sort of comments that you were seeing from me in the chat. And I just want to reinforce how I think important that is within the MHP-IF, and what a group of pioneers I think we have to do that. I'm looking at the time now, and there's no need to sort of stretch our time out to, for the next 20 minutes. I am going to invite, though, we did hear from Leandra just at the very end that, there are some things that are striking her about some of the commonalities across projects. I'm going to invite everybody just to take one moment, even not 1 moment, 1 minute, a full minute, so privately, and think about, maybe one new thing, one thing that you heard today that was new for you. And just, in that minute, just jot that down, and, the invitation will be to, share it in the chat discussion, and we can open it up for a brief discussion if people want to share things verbally, particularly those who are on the phone. So just 1 minute, one new thing, one thing that you heard that was new for you. So might a few of you be interested in sharing either verbally or through chat anything that you thought about and jotted down in this last minute?
Hello? Sorry, I'm just gonna, is it all right for me to share verbally, just so I'm not in the chat as well?
Absolutely, go for it.
Awesome. So this is Joey or Dwalmer from Multicultural Health Brokers Cooperative in Edmonton. I was actually just really interested in the needs, enhanced wellness of refugee children, youth, and families. I didn't realize there was a project in Winnipeg, actually, which I'll be in Winnipeg actually in about a month, that was so closely linked to some of the things that we're doing surrounding risk and protective factors and social determinants of health. So I'm really interested to see how they progress, and to see if there's any commonalities and information that we can share between our populations down here in Edmonton and Winnipeg. I know there's a lot of similarities between the two cities as well. So yeah, I'm just interested to see how things develop there, and I'm really glad to hear about and know the project.
Thank you, Joey. Fantastic. Anybody else want to share a nugget? Anything that came to mind? That includes members of the FAC team too. Okay, well, no pressure for that, but just, those are the types of things that we'll have opportunities to share with each other as we move along. There is one question, thank you, Joanne, about the accessing the Hub website and connecting with other projects. So I think that's a nice segue for me just to share with you some of the next steps, which actually will include giving each of you access to the website, and working with you actually to shape some of how we can sort of facilitate some of those connections between the projects as well. So, and before just moving into those specific next steps, I mean, I do want to say just once again, and on behalf of the Public Health Agency team and the KDNI Hub, I mean, a huge thank you to each of you. And we're all going to learn as we go. And this is a new community, and I have no doubt that we'll shape this community together in ways that are practical and that are also very meaningful. So thanks to all for your sharing. As it for specific follow-up things, I mentioned at the outset that we will in fact post notes from this meeting. I mean, we'll never capture the richness that you hear verbally, but the main points that you chose to share today from your projects, we'll summarize those as best we can. And of course, with an invitation, if anything is you know, a glaring gaffe, please don't hesitate to provide that feedback. So the main points that you shared, and then any of the things that you know, people noted that they wanted to learn about projects. So we'll share those. That'll be a post on our website, and that'll be from the Secretariat. We will also post the recording of the project introductions on the website. All these teasers about the website. So on that, again, those of you who have spoken with us in the orientation calls, we are doing this, you know, soft launch of the website, and that's just with this community, the Public Health Agency, the Hub, and all projects. Once the formal announcement has been made about the MHP-IF, then we'll be launching publicly. But that will give us a nice opportunity, at least a couple of weeks, if not more, to probably a little bit more, to make sure that we're all comfortable as a community with that being made, the website being made more public. So the immediate next step, you will be receiving a note from Eric with instructions for joining the website. He'll be sending that out later this week. And I'm sure there'll be some back and forth on that, but we're really excited to have us convene, you know, virtually and not always verbally. There will be some opportunities for dialogue as well, but to have you join the website, and then of course our next times together, the most immediate ones will be February 26th. That should be in your calendars for those who are able and interested to join for that very first webinar, which will include a tour of the web-based platform and also some early findings from the one-on-one calls that we'll be doing starting this week, in fact, and doing with each of you. So that's the sort of focus of that first call, and I think those invitations are in your calendars, and we look forward to whoever is able to participate in those.